So if that's true and you come to this place where you accept the authority of God's word, see, this is what I find to be a real struggle. I know a lot of people who know a lot about the Bible. I know a lot of people who know a lot about God. I know a lot of people that could tell me all that they know about the Bible. But here's the thing. When we get down to faithful obedience, I know a lot of people that say no. Not boldly, not openly, not no, absolutely not, I will not do what God says, but quietly, subversively, down in the places where nobody else can see and know. And I want to ask you this morning, might you know what that place is? Might you be one who says, I know the right answer, and I know that people think that I know the right answer, and I know that people looking at me think that I'm living the right answer, but I know down deep in my heart of hearts, I'm telling God no. If that's you, you are in the right place this morning. So my prayer is that two things will happen in the remaining time that we have today. One, that God will convict your heart to faithfully obey him, period. And that you will leave here today with a reverent fear of God, that you would never, ever again consider saying, no, Lord, because of what that really means. And my prayer is that you'll be set free this morning, and that you will be healed of any internal heart harm that you have known, and that any scar that you may have ever borne or anything that you may be carrying, that God would heal you today. Because here's the deal. If after hearing the truth of God's standards, you found yourself saying, say what? Faithful obedience. If we're honest, and I'll get to the front of this line, every one of us would have to acknowledge that there have been times and there remain times where we would go from saying, say what, to this graphic, and we would say, now what? Oh no. I'm in a place that I cannot correct. And I just want to ask you, have you ever felt like you blew it? Have you ever felt like you just blew it? I mean, game over, done, I blew it. Maybe you see yourself as a vase and it has been shattered. I'm done. I blew it. Game over. Where do I go from here? We talked about this in the garden. We saw it again through the flood. We've seen it over and over again, this reality of sin. Well, what's the deal with sin? The deal with sin is we blew it. And it has separated us from fellowship with God. And a holy, righteous God cannot have sin in his presence. And so he has said there will be none allowed into heaven. So what do? Why didn't everything end there in the garden? Because God has a plan. And his plan is a loving plan. And he is creator God, and he's in charge. And so what he said was, I'm going to make a way. And we know that the penalty of sin is death, right? Some of you say, oh yeah, Romans, I know that. Yeah, Romans 6:23. Well, that's true. I want to point you back to the garden. Do you remember when God told Adam and Eve, for if you eat of that tree, you will surely die? You see, the consequence and the penalty of sin has always been death. And so some would say, well, hang on, now they ate. Why didn't they die right then? This is the grace and the mercy of our God. And here again, the idea is to tie in these truths in a way that you see them not just popping up in the New Testament. This isn't a church thing. This is a Christ thing. This is a creation truth. And God created this system of sacrifice, and it does bring death. You see, the first sin, it introduced death. Not only did Adam and Eve then later die, but if you look and you see the account in Genesis, they went from being covered with fig leaves to being covered with animal skins. An animal died to cover their sin, to cover their shame, right from the very beginning.